We're live for the first time in a very long time. Good to have everybody. I don't know, I don't have a way to see who all's online. I cannot see the chat, but we've got the team here. Anthony is back here running camera.
Hi.
Megan is running questions and comments and all that type of stuff.
Hello.
So if you send stuff in and it goes to them, they're going to pass it along to me. But I can't see the chat, which is kind of weird because we used to stream. Oh, can I pull? I guess I could pull it up on here. How about that? We used to live stream on Twitch every week, and I had a big monitor where I could see the stream and I could see the questions, and it was like a whole different thing. So it's been several years since I've done a live stream, but glad we're going to do it today. We don't have a new project video coming out today, so we thought this would be a good way to hang out with you, answer some questions, and we're still going to work on an upcoming project, just a piece of it. We're going to build an arcade control system, and we're going to show you how easy it is to set up a Raspberry Pi to run arcade stuff, and then show you how easy it is to set up the controls. It's very easy, way easier than it used to be. So we're going to get to that in a little bit, but we've also got questions that came in through Instagram, and if you want to leave questions in the comments, we're going to do those throughout, and we'll maybe stream for, I don't know, we didn't talk about it, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, 8 hours, something like that, somewhere between now and tomorrow. So we're going to answer questions and work on that stuff. First off, though, I want to give a big shout out to the Maker Alliance. So our Maker Alliance is, excuse me, the group of people that support us through Patreon and through YouTube membership. And they, on their own, set up a Maker Summer Camp that starts today. And it's too late for you to go to it if you're not already a part of it. But I want to give them a shout out because they're watching the live stream right now while they set up for the event. Super cool. So thanks, guys, for being awesome. Now and tomorrow. Oh, okay, I got to mute myself. Okay, so now I can see the stream. That's pretty awesome. Cool. Well, do we want to do questions first? Do we have some questions? We want to start with that?
Yeah. Let's start off with a question from Brad.
Brad.
How did you find your voice for your channel? It seems like you have a lot more personality in them now than you did early on. Was that a conscious decision or just something where you became more comfortable?
Honestly, I think it was becoming more comfortable. I didn't realize, if you go back, don't go back and watch the old videos, but if you do go back and watch the old videos, you'll see that I think I just look kind of scared. I didn't realize like that what I am in normal life wouldn't come across to the camera. And I was thinking too much about what I was trying to get across and everything. Just after watching those and realizing like, oh, I should just relax like I do in real life, it became easier to talk to a camera, and I wasn't so worried about it, and it's just more natural. So I think it's probably settled in to, I think, how I am in real life. I don't think I'm different than this, but hey, Super Chat works. Thanks, Josh. Josh is not in the shop with us today. He's watching from home. But thanks for the Super Chat. You just,
take that out of your paycheck.
yeah, you just paid part of your own salary? I don't know.
Ready for another question?
Yeah, let's do another question, then we'll get started.
If you could have one tool from sci-fi in real life, what would it be and why?
One tool from sci-fi. I mean, it would be a lightsaber. I know it's not a tool, but like, you could cut anything with it.
That's true.
Actually, so I'm going to nerd out here for a second. Last night, or the night before last, I was setting up a character for a D&D campaign that they're going to do at this summer camp this weekend. And it's a Star Wars-based campaign. And so I was setting up my character, and I had to pick a weapon. And they have this big list of all these different crazy weapons. And one of them was a light katana, which I had never heard of. It's probably not in canon, Star Wars canon. But it was such a cool idea to have a light katana. Thin blade, look all awesome, like this, but glowy. So I think I'd probably do that. All right, we'll do some more questions. Go ahead and leave them down there. I want to answer as many questions as we can. So Megan, feel free to throw them out while we're doing the rest of this stuff. But I also want to get started, so you don't have to just sit here and stare at me talk the entire time. So what we're going to do is show you how to set up a Raspberry Pi to run RetroPi. And RetroPi is an operating system that has a bunch of stuff built into it already for emulation for, gosh, like Atari 2600, NES, MAME cabinets. What else is in there by default?
I mean,
There's a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can even add more to it. So we're going to show you how to do this. And for the Raspberry Pi that I'm going to be using, I'm getting a phone call right now. For the Raspberry Pi, we're going to use this. This is a Pi 400, and so it's a Raspberry Pi 4 in a keyboard. This is a product that actually they sent us a long time ago. But it's basically a Raspberry Pi in a case, and then it has all of the USB ports and power and everything. It has ports on the back. And so you don't have to use this at all. It's just the only Raspberry Pi 4 that I have right now that's not in use in something else. So that's what we're going to use. And the cool thing about this is that you do have a keyboard. You can plug in a mouse. So any configuration you need to do on the system, you've got it all right here on the computer. I mean, everything you need is right here, except for the monitor, which I don't have. But if you don't know about Raspberry Pi, their operating system, like Linux or whatever it is you're running, is on an SD card. Okay, so if we can switch over to this camera right here, I'm going to show you the back, these ports. And are you switched?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, I don't have the light, so I didn't know. Sorry. Okay, so we got ports on the back here. They're just USB ports, power, different things. This is the big I/O port for the Raspberry Pi. If you want to plug into the different pins, we're not going to worry about that now. But right here, you got a micro SD card. And that SD card has everything on it. It's got the operating system, it's got the games or the files or whatever it is that you're using. You know, it's on this card, not on the computer. There's no hard drive. So if you were to take this card and stick it into a different Raspberry Pi, you've got the exact same setup. So that's got positives and negatives. But the cool thing about it is that you can program the operating system on the Pi just by replacing the card. So this is way easier to do than it used to be. Basically, you just take this card and you plug it into another computer. So I'm going to be putting it over here, and we can switch over to the computer view. Okay. And I don't want that. Okay, so there's a Raspberry Pi Imager tool, and this is a free download from Raspberry Pi. And you basically just choose the card that you want to format. And then there's a list of operating systems. It used to be you had to download them, you had to pick the right one, you had to go whatever, whatever. Now you just go here and select the one that you want and hit write. It's going to erase the card, which is fine. And that's it. So see you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm just kidding. That's really all there is to it. That puts the operating system in everything it needs to run. Uh-oh, I don't have your password, Anthony. And you're probably not going to want to type your password here on the internet, but...
Okay, I'll do this.
Oh, yeah, look at that little... the thingy. Maybe.
Well.
Maybe not?
Here.
Okay, well.
Okay, we're not streaming my screen right now, so...
But basically, that just puts the operating system on the card. Once it finishes writing, which will probably take a little while, then you just pull it out, stick it in the Pi, and you're good to go. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a monitor here to show you what the boot up screen looks like. But honestly, it's just like an interface that has like NES, and then you can swipe left, and it goes to Atari, and then you swipe left, and it goes to MAME. And within each one of those screens, it has all the games for that system listed. And so you just pick the game you want and hit play. That's the easy part, okay? So getting the Pi configured and then plugging it up to a monitor with a mouse and a keyboard, no big deal. Raspberry Pis are useful for lots of other things. If you're not familiar, Raspberry Pi is a microcomputer. So it is a full computer with a processor, with RAM, with ports, just like your laptop or your PC or whatever. But it's really tiny, really usually inexpensive. Right now they are insanely expensive. But it's a great way to have a computer that you can interface with, that you can put inside projects. And it's not a microcontroller, it's not an Arduino. That is a different thing entirely. But Raspberry Pi, if you can get your hands on one right now at a reasonable price, is an awesome tool to be able to build projects out of. Right now, what should be a $45 Raspberry Pi is about $180, $190 because of the chip shortage, because of supply chain, COVID, the state of the world stuff. So hopefully that will come back down at some point, but they should be cheap Right now they're not, and they're hard to get, but that's why we're using this one that I already had. So this thing's about 68% done writing, but again, there's nothing really for me to show you once it's done. So I'll put that in here and that will be ready to go. What we're really going to focus on today is setting up the controls and answering questions. The controls you can do a few different ways. So I'm going to set this keyboard over there and show you this box. Actually, we did one thing. We're going to answer a couple questions while we're waiting on this thing to finish.
Yeah, go for it.
Alrighty, what Star Wars character would make the best woodworker?
Oh, wow. Huh. It'd have to be a droid, because they have, like, the most precision.
True.
But they'd have to have, like, good dexterity, so they'd have to have good hands. None of them really have that. I don't know. That's an excellent, I don't know. We'll say Yoda. I don't know. He's not a droid.
We have a question from the chat.
Okay.
That's live right now. What do you think some basic tools for a beginner should be?
For beginning woodworking, I assume, is what we're talking about?
Sure.
Excellent question. Okay, so if you were getting started and you had no tools whatsoever and you wanted to, work out of your garage, front yard, whatever, I would say the first thing to figure out is what you plan on making first. Eventually, you're going to add more tools, right? So you don't have to have everything figured out, but what do you want to make first? If it's something that's going to have details and curves, the first saw you would probably want to get is a jigsaw, because, oh, this thing's done. Continue. So now I can kick that out of the computer and it will be done. So I would say a jigsaw, because you can control it. It will take longer to cut something long, but you can make a curve if you need to. You can cut out details. Now if you're going to be making a table or something out of like 2x4s and you just need long cuts or straight cuts, if that's your first priority, get a circular saw. You can get both of those battery powered or corded. Corded ones are going to be cheaper. The battery powered is more convenient, but the cost goes up. And I would say one of those and a drill that's also a driver, the most basic. I would have both if you can, but if you just have to get one, get a drill, because you can use it for a driver too. And maybe a palm sander. Those tools right there, you can build furniture. You can build lots and lots of stuff. That's where I would get started. If you are going to go battery power with those things, you can get kits to where you have a few basic tools and a couple of batteries and a charger. Honestly, that's a pretty good way to go. Just realize that it's going to be a few $100s because the batteries are the expensive part. They're more than the tool. So if you wanted to, you could instead piece it out and get like a tool with no battery here and a tool with no battery, and then buy a couple of batteries separately. Kind of build the set the way that you want it. Might be a good option as well. So I hope that helps. All right, so I've got this card done. Ready for this magic? Stick it in there, and then you're done. That's it. There's no magic to it. So the pie is done, but we're not really going to talk about that anymore. I probably don't need this laptop up here, but I'm going to keep it up here anyway. All right, so let's talk arcade controls. This is a set that we got because I've bought individual buttons before, individual joysticks, and that is a perfectly fine way to do it. Just know that you have to create a wiring harness to go. Usually they have little limit switches on them with 3 terminals. And so you have to solder on wires, and that's a perfectly fine way to do it. I've done that several times because we built several arcades. This time, we actually got a kit that has wiring harnesses already, and it's not really that much more expensive. But the cool thing about this is that it has little ports right here. And if we switch over to this camera, I'll show you what I'm talking about. We have some components here that just make this incredibly easy, okay? So each set of, like a control, a player's control, comes with a set of buttons which have these little terminals on the back. It comes with a wiring harness which plugs onto those terminals, so that's super easy. It has a joystick with one big port on it, so you plug in one thing and that connects to the 4 buttons that are inside this joystick, so you don't have to do any of that work. And all of those wires plug into this little control thing. And so this thing has USB on it. This basically connects to the computer, whatever computer you want, not just a Raspberry Pi. It connects and the computer sees this thing as a keyboard. So each time one of these buttons get pressed, it's basically sending a key press. And so then within your gaming software or whatever, it just knows that, you know, when I see this button, that means up, or when I see this button, it means down. And so that's all configured in here. So this is an incredibly easy way to get a full arcade setup, and it's just like all kind of plug and play. And so we've got a big control board that we're going to be mounting this in today. And I wanted to show you how this worked because it's so simple that I just have to do a bunch of work to get these in the control board, and then we can answer questions while we're doing that, because there's really not that much to it. We have 4 players on this project that we're working on. So we have 4 joysticks, 4 sets of 8 buttons, and then 2 buttons that are kind of system control buttons up top. I'll show you the control board in just a second. It's like bigger than this camera. But anyway, in this setup, or in this kit that we got 4 sets of buttons, different colors, 4 joysticks. It comes with these retention rings that go on the bottom of them to hold them into your control board. It comes with all the wiring. Comes with the 4 control boards. You can drop them on the floor if you want to. Doesn't really matter. It also comes with, actually I haven't gone through this box yet, so I'm not entirely sure what all it comes with. USB cable to plug into each one of the controllers. It comes with all the wiring harnesses for the buttons, all the individual plugs for each button. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out, that these buttons have LEDs in them. And so you'll notice at the bottom of these buttons have 4 terminals. 2 of these are for the button itself. 2 of them are to power the LED, so all the buttons will light up. Those LEDs are daisy chained together. So all of the all of the green buttons are connected to each other. And then the end of that wire that they're all connected to goes onto these red terminals, and that sends power to it. So it's incredibly easy to set up. And we're going to go through, excuse me, we're going to go through this. Just a second. I just wanted to make sure that I got everything out of the box that I need. And I think I do. So let's get to it. All right, do we have some more questions?
We sure do. Biggest question right here.
Biggest question.
How do not I,
Right.
but how do other people grow an awesome beard like yours?
I appreciate you saying that, because my beard is not really that awesome. It's pretty patchy. I got to leave it pretty loose to, you know, so it looks like it's full. It's not. It's not
Should I
full.
come up there?
No. Anthony is far hairier than I am in every way. So.
Take that as a compliment.
Okay, sure. All right, what else we got?
How many clamps does it take to make someone a clamp champ?
1. Just 1.
Just the one.
Just 1. It's a state of mind. People often, jokingly, will be like, send me pictures of some clamping thing and be like, "Who's the clamp champ now?" Thinking it's like a contest or something. It's a status. It's not a There's not one. We can all be clamp champs. Yes.
You want another one?
Sure.
For a general purpose workshop, what is more versatile, CNC router or a laser?
We did an entire video on this.
Mm-hmm.
We did. If you go back and look at the video about making the Tuscan Raider workshop sign for Brian Kessinger, who's an awesome artist, we made that video to show some of the differences between a CNC and a laser. Again, like what I said with the saws earlier, it depends on what you're going to do with it. If you feel like you're going to have to cut through things, you know, more than thin material, like if you have 3/4 inch plywood, if you think you're going to have to cut through that plywood or engrave something deep into it, CNC, hands down, because the laser can't do that. If you think you're just going to decorate things or engrave text, or if you need to cut out thin material, 1/4 inch material, maybe 1/2 inch material, a laser is awesome. But then you also have the the exhaust thing to think about. If you have a laser, you have to exhaust it outside or through a pretty expensive air cleaner. Through a window is fine, but if you're in a basement, you may not have a window handy. So that's something to consider. Versus the CNC, it's loud and it just produces dust. So if you have a vacuum or a dust collector or something, then that can handle that. But I don't know. I personally, if I had to buy one, if I was only using one, I would go CNC, because you can pretty much do everything with a CNC that you can do in a laser plus more. The opposite is not true. That work?
Sounds good.
Good, because that's my answer. That's what I got. Thank you for being here, by the way, everybody who's watching. How many people do we have watching right now? 814? Zoinks! That's a lot of people.
That's great.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, though. Thanks for hanging out. And if you have other ideas for what we can do on this live stream or future live streams, let us know, because we're just kind of figuring this out. If you have any of past projects that you want to see, see how it's holding up or whatever. If it's around here, we can go grab it, and especially the props, they're definitely around. We can grab them, show them to you, show some details of them with the little detail camera we got over here, if you want. I'm going to get some of these wires out so that we can start putting some of these controls together. And then we'll get the big control board over here. So the control board for this project is very large because it's 4-player, and so we wanted 4 adults to be able to stand, shoulder to shoulder and play comfortably. So it's 68 inches wide or something.
Want me to go get it?
It's right there. I can grab it, but I'm just letting you know it's going to be wider than this view, so you're not going to be able to see the whole thing. But we can do one set of controls in the middle, and we're going to have to take them all off again, because we're going to be putting graphics on it and stuff like that, which I don't have yet. So I'll show you the process, and then I'll have to undo it later. But that's okay. All right, what we got?
Question?
Yeah. Tip for you, don't do what I'm doing. If you need to cut a zip tie next to a bunch of wires, don't use a blade. Use nippers. But that's what my nippers are way over there, feet away from me. So.
All right, ready for a chat question?
Chat question.
Yes.
Hit me.
What is your most memorable or unforgettable project?
Ooh, most memorable. Okay, so easy answer. Long time ago, I did a secret bookcase. So my friend Josh, not the Josh that works with me, a different Josh. He and his wife were gonna have their first kid, and Josh has always wanted a secret room. When he was growing up, he always wanted one. So they had this attic space in their house. He said, my wife is pregnant. I really want to build a secret room for my kid and not tell him about it so that he can find it when he gets older. So a legit secret discovery kind of room. So, of course, I built the thing. That was 6 years ago or something like that. Their boy was born. They've had a daughter since then. He has grown up in this house. He has played in this hallway with this bookcase. Had no idea that it was there. And then I think about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, while the kids have been asleep over the past several years, they went in and decorated this place. And his wife is an interior designer, so it looks amazing. It's ridiculous. It's like a fairy tale. So they go in and design this thing. It's got all this adventure stuff in it and fantasy stuff everywhere, and it's super cool in there. And so one day they crack the door, because he's not going to go pulling on every book in the house to see, because the book was what opened the door. So they crack the door, and there's just a little crack, and there's light coming out of it. And they set up cameras on the inside of this thing. And so the boy goes upstairs and sees this crack and just pulls the door open and walks in, and they have video throughout the entire thing of him walking through and just being like, what is this? Mind was blown. And so that is by far the most memorable project, because the payoff took 4 or 5 years or something like that. But then seeing video of this kid discover an entire secret world inside of his house, awesome. Awesome, awesome. For sure. All right, you got any more?
Yep. Someone named Jesse says, "Hi, Bob."
Hey, Jesse.
Hi. I am currently working on a custom action figure, and I
Ooh.
know you're also a fan of old action figures like me.
I
Have
am.
you ever considered making one, and what would you make?
I absolutely have. We talked for a long time about making custom action figures of all of us here at the office. We wanted to get 3D scans, and like, we still may do this one day, but the idea was we get a full body 3D scan of each one of us. In 3D program, we break it apart into limbs that we could then print and mold and cast so that we could make like Star Wars style, not posable, but like arm bending kind of things. And we could make little action figures and then, I don't know, maybe sell a set of everybody that you could buy and you could paint, custom paint or something. I don't know. We didn't really go that far with it. But I have thought about it. I think it would be super cool. And if you have made some custom action figures, send them to me because I would like to see, not the figures, pictures of them, because I would like to see them. I have done customization of figures before. I've custom painted some Transformers and some old G.I. Joe figures and stuff like that, just for fun. That's kind of as far as I've ever taken it. So, let me see if I can get this control board up here without breaking Anthony's laptop.
While you're doing that,
While I'm doing that.
Am I muted?
Got more?
No, you should be good.
While you're doing that, I just want to shout out all of our super chat people that are spending time with us, sending in some money and asking some questions. So I just want to call them out.
Yeah, do it.
Cool. Jake, thanks.
Thanks,
Yes.
Jake.
Are you Jake from Steak Farm?
I'll be right back. I'm not leaving.
Okay.
Oh no, he's gone.
I'm not
Oh,
leaving.
no. He has a question for you if you want to answer it real quick.
Sure.
How often do you use your arcade cabinet?
I don't.
Where did that question go?
I don't. I really wish I did. It's in my basement, and when we bought our office building, when we got the office this past year, it's been almost a year now. Part of the idea of moving stuff there was to reclaim some of the basement for the kids so that they could start playing ping pong and using the arcade. And so far, I have not reclaimed that basement for them yet. I'm trying. It's just very difficult. So we don't use it very much. But I hope that that's a thing that they can eventually start to, enjoy. Occasionally when they have a friend over, they'll come down and they want to show it off, and so they'll play for a little bit, but it's not super convenient for them to get to at the moment, and I think that's kind of the big thing. Let me get this control board. Do we have another one?
We sure do. What is your next dream project?
Oh, I can't tell you. I can't tell you yet.
I have a sweet one. Ollie, age 5.
Aw.
He really wants to know how R2-D2 is doing.
I will let R2 know that you asked. R2 is doing very well. He sits in our living room upstairs, and pretty much every day I walk in and I get coffee right here, and R2-D2 is right there, and I always look at him and I go, "Hey buddy," and I like pat him on the head, and I take my coffee. I honestly do that pretty much every day.
That's awesome.
It's like having a dog. He doesn't move. Take him outside, but thank you for asking about R2. All right, we have any more before I dig into this?
Let's do one more.
One more. Okay.
Last meal on Earth. What would it be?
Five Guys.
I think we just lost my. Can I see your mic for a second?
Yes, you can see my mic. Oh yeah, it's blinking.
Hold please. It's not connected anymore. Oh. It's resyncing. Who's connected? That's over at by us, allegedly. Turning it off and on again. So the first thing you should do whenever you have technical issues, right?
If you can hear this one.
There we go.
going strong.
Okay,
We're back.
we're back.
Sorry, everybody.
So the question was, last meal on Earth?
Yep.
Answer is Five Guys. And I'll tell you which one. If it's the last meal on Earth, I don't know if you know this about Five Guys, but you can get as many patties as you want.
What? No.
It has 1 and 2 on the menu, but you just tell them how many you want. So one time we ran this like mud race where you have to like, it's like a 5K through the woods and through mud and stuff. And so I was really hot, really tired, really hungry after this thing. So I went in and I was like, I'm gonna do it today. 3 patties. So I got 3 patties from Five Guys with steak sauce, mushrooms, and then like, you know, ketchup and mustard and all this other stuff. And it was the sloppiest, biggest mound of beef that I've ever eaten, and it was amazing. I felt terrible afterwards, but it was really good. What? There's something funny happening in the chat that I don't get to see.
When it comes up on your screen.
Well, I can't really see.
Thanks, Infinite Craftsman.
Anyway, I'm not going to try to read the comments.
Who's your favorite music artist?
So for many years, I would have said Radiohead, which I know a lot of people don't like Radiohead. That's fine. But they haven't put out anything in so long. I think they're probably done. So I'm not really sure. Man, there's like, I don't like that there's like secret laughing and stuff happening over here.
Her husband is just being a doofus in the chat.
Okay, all right. Hey, Jared from camp.
Hi, Jared from camp.
Awesome. Camp just fired Anthony. Sorry, Anthony, you just got fired again.
Hey, where's my vouchers? Y'all were going to give me vouchers I can hand out to be unfired.
I would say, without thinking about it longer, I would say, I kind of go back and forth. So right now, I cannot find any new music that I like. So I'm listening to a lot of Black Keys, Radiohead, Mute Math, Black Pumas. Been listening to Black Pumas lately, for some reason. Yeah. All right. These buttons, I was talking about the retention things. These drop into the hole. We've already cut the holes in this control board. I didn't really show you this control board, but it's very large. Okay, so if we can get the whole frame here, it is this big. Okay, and so we're just going to work on one right now. And so you have these buttons, and then it has this little retention thing that just twists on it, right? So you just drop it through there, and then from the back side, which you probably won't be able to see, you just twist it on, get it tight, and it's good. Okay, so that's the first step, is getting all of those in there. But then let me show you the joystick. So to put the joystick on, it goes underneath the board. The knob comes off of it. Whoops. And there's a different color knob for each one of the players. So obviously this is the wrong color. But you have this with mounting holes on the side. So it comes from underneath, and then you drive in screws through those mounting holes. And it gets centered. You just have to make sure that the hole is big enough for the arm to be able to extend in both directions. So it doesn't have to be a big hole, but it has to be bigger than this rod, the arm. So anyway, you get that centered from underneath, you drive in some screws to hold it in place, and then you just screw that thing back on. But I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have the screws to put it in. I don't need to put it in yet, so we're not going to worry about that. But I'm going to go ahead and get all of the buttons in place so that we can flip it over, and then I'll show you how to connect all the wires, because it gets kind of ugly once you get all the wires in place. There's a lot going on down there between each button having its own wires and LED wires. You got a lot going on. You got to manage it. So it's also going to be hidden. That's not a huge deal. All right, what else do we have? Question-wise.
All right. This is a big one, okay?
Don't use screw. Hang on. Somebody said don't use screws for joysticks. I would be really curious how else you would attach them without screws. Let me know. You have issues, because maybe there's something that I don't know. Anyway, go ahead, please.
Alrighty.
That was fun.
Was Thanos right?
Oh man, I don't know.
Next question.
Next question. We're not talking politics.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Die Hard is a movie at Christmas. Next question.
What advice can you give someone wanting to start their own business, whether it's on or off YouTube?
Ooh. Okay, so I wrote a book, not trying to sell my book, but in the book I made a point that I think when you start a business, there's this transition of you have to put in a ridiculous amount of time to it. But I think people often don't realize that startup mentality is not sustainable. So my advice would be to whatever that business is, whatever you think it's going to take for you to get it off the ground, up and running, commit not an indefinite amount of time to it. Commit like 6 months. Basically, my story here is that when I wanted to go from my full-time job to ILikeToMakeStuff as a full-time job, I had a software job and it was nice and I worked from home and I got paid a nice salary. And so I had to see if it was worth it to switch. And so my wife and I spent a lot of time talking about it. And basically we said 6 months of working 2 full-time jobs. I'm going to do both as hard as I can. And then one of them is going to be in the way. And that one that's in the way will be the one that I let go of. And so it could be that I stayed with the same job. We'll just have to see. But the point being that we put a time on it, not I'm going to work both of these as long as I possibly can until I just completely burn out or my family doesn't like me anymore or whatever. It was like we're going to put in a certain amount of time and in 6 months we're going to check in and see, okay, which one has to go? Can't do them both, one has to go. So I would say put some time on whatever that startup investment, time investment is, put a deadline on it, at least a check-in with people you care about, somebody outside of your daily life so that they can kind of see what it's doing to you. And just keep that in check, because I honestly think that people who live their life at the pace of a startup, it's not sustainable and it's bad for you long term. I hope that helps. What else we got?
On the topic of books, someone asked if you're going to do another book.
I would love to write another book. I really would. I have a vague idea for one, but I've never sat down to work on it, so I don't know. I always wanted to write fiction, too.
I feel like you would be really good at that.
I think that would be fun. And I do actually have some ideas for fiction books, too. I think we've talked about them before.
Cool.
We'll see. I don't know.
I got one more very important question.
Okay. I have a feeling there's sarcasm in that, but...
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Back to the Thanos thing. I don't know. I'm not big for labels, so who cares? Like, yes, it is a sandwich, and no, it's not a sandwich. It doesn't matter. Hot dogs are delicious.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How do you stay motivated when a project grinds to a halt?
We have a lot of that, where we get stuck on something. This happens, Anthony can attest to this. We'll be filming, he's like, all right, we're gonna shoot today, and we get like 5 minutes done. And we're like, well, gotta wait for those hinges to show up from Amazon. I guess we'll start again tomorrow. Yep. Stuff grinds to a halt all the time. Usually because we're waiting on something to show up, or, you put finish on something and you can't touch it for several hours or whatever. And I think the way that we deal with it the best is, or maybe because we have several things happening at the same time most of the time. And so if we get stuck on one thing, there's always something else over here that we can jump to, we can pivot to and work on that. And honestly, I have enough stuff in my life, interests, and the Karmann Ghia is always out there waiting to be worked on. So like if something else just stops, I got plenty of other stuff I can jump to. Poor Karmann Ghia does not get the attention it needs.
Should we mention a lot of these questions aren't coming from the chat? How do we get these?
That's a good point. So on Instagram, we put out some stories last couple days asking for questions for this. And so we've been getting questions for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days now.
Yep.
For this live stream. And so if you're not following us on Instagram, you definitely should. We're always posting behind the scenes stuff over there. Every time we put out a new video, there's always stuff over there. We've got stories on occasion, weekly, weekend tips, oftentimes from everybody on the team. So yeah, go follow us on Instagram. All right, I'm gonna flip this thing over and hook up a few buttons so you can see it.
And we designed that on Fusion 360.
Yes, this board, you can see the profile, has a little fancy little angled corner profile, which doesn't make a lot of sense in its current state, but it will later on. It will look nice. But even the button layouts, all of this entire piece from a raw chunk of plywood, this was all cut on the CNC because we designed it in Fusion. So we have a course to teach Fusion 360. It's an online course. If you want to, people like different 3D programs. I get that. But if you want to learn how to use Fusion, we have an online course that will teach you, and you don't have to know anything about it. So go check that out. If Josh is in the chat, why don't we get Josh to create maybe a 10% off coupon for today only for the course? And then he could throw it in the chat in a link, and then people could go get it if they want, if you're watching. If not, don't sweat it, but... Okay, so I lost my wires. Oh, here they are. All right, so for these wires, let's, Anthony, can we swap over to this cam?
Josh sends it, I'll make a title for it so we can put it on the screen.
And I cannot see if I'm pointing at the right thing or not.
Here,
So
I'll be your cameraman.
hey, that's your job. That'd be cool.
Don't fire me.
All right, so we have... So these wires over here are a daisy chain, and you can see that all the black wires are connected to each other.
Somebody was just asking about that in the chat earlier.
Oh, yeah?
About the LEDs, yep.
Okay, well, this is what's going to go into the LED. So you have this plug, which goes onto the board into the LED plug. It goes in right there. I'm not going to push it in yet. And then a black and red come out of that. And so then you just have to take a black and a red and go onto the 2 terminals of each one of these. And so this one set of wires will jump from button to button to connect all of those.
So you've got these here. Where's my finger? So those are for the LEDs, and then those are the little limit switch hiding.
I believe so, yeah. I mean, I haven't actually looked at this. It says down there. It's kind of confusing, actually, but I would imagine that the gray is the limit switch because that's the clicky part of the button, and then the ones over here are the LED that's hidden inside the housing. So that's where there's no instructions in the box.
One time I hooked them up wrong, and when I pushed the button, nothing happened on the screen, but the light was flashing on and off.
Oh, there you go. You're turning on and off the light. So that's the daisy chain for the LEDs, and then each one of the buttons has one of these. I'm going to hook these up in a random location because, like I said, I'm going to have to take them apart. But basically, there's a positive and negative terminals on there. Well, those are listed for the LEDs, so I guess it doesn't really matter. So basically, you just take these, slide them onto the button, go all the way down. And then on the bottom of this controller, you've got, it's kind of upside down in both directions, but you've got little text there that says like R2, L2, R1, L1, and then there's some like Ks, which are assignable in the software, I assume. And then also over here you've got clear and mode. If you wanted to have system buttons, you can put them on to those. You also have 5-volt power. If you need to get power out for something else, you can get it from here. But basically it tells you what all these terminals are on the bottom. So then you just take the wires from a button, you plug them in there, and you're done. I mean, that's it. This is so much easier than the ones I did in the past because it was little terminals and you have to solder 2 little things there, solder 2 little things here. So this is a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and get these plugged up, and then I will have to do the daisy chain across them, and so we can see what it looks like. So that R1 and R2, L1, L2, I assume that those all go to the Joystick, but we'll have to figure that later on. It doesn't really matter now. All right, do we have some more questions we could do?
Yes, we do.
Also, sorry, I asked a question and then I interrupted you. Is there anything that anybody would like to see, like old projects or something we could go grab to show off that might be, if not, totally fine, but that's another thing we could do right now. We've got time, so.
Take the camera to it if it's a big one.
That's a good point. We could certainly do that.
Let's see, we have a question that says, Bob, what's the biggest mistake you ever made on a project and what did you take away from it?
Biggest mistake I ever made. There's been so many.
Was that a super chat?
I think it might be the Carmagia, and maybe it's just because this is more recent. It's the first thing that comes to mind. So when I got the Carmagia up on the rotisserie and the two sections under the doors were both completely rotted out and I had to cut them away to replace them, well, I was trying to be really timid about the whole thing, and then I one day was just like, all right, I'm done being scared. I'm gonna cut some stuff out. And so I cut both the sides out without thinking about the fact that I really needed one of those as reference to measure off of so that I could put the other one back in. And if I had just done one at a time, it would have saved me days, full days of work, several full days of work. But because I cut them both out, I was flying blind for a long time and scared to do anything wrong, and I ended up putting stuff back in and then had to kind of take stuff back out and put it in again and remeasure it, and it worked out. But I would have saved a lot of time if I had cut out one side, save the other side as a reference point, to measure off of, and then and once I got the new one in, use that as a reference, kind of gone back and forth. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. I'm sure I've made bigger mistakes. I'm sure I have. But
You want another one?
sure.
All right, favorite Marvel or DC character? And this is from our super chat.
Oh, man. Marvel or DC? I'll go ahead and say Batman is my favorite DC. Always has been.
I'm not wearing doggy pants.
I especially like the new Batman. You still haven't seen the new Batman movie, have you? Oh, it's so good. It's the movie, and people are not going to like it. Oh, that's okay. We don't have to have the same opinion. It's the movie that makes Batman look like I always thought Batman was supposed to look. Not physically look, but like as a detective, as like a... I'm not a superhero, I'm just like a dude that likes to dress in black and solve crimes. That's what the comics were when I was growing up. And
Adam West did that.
not dressed in black, dressed in gray and neon blue or whatever. Batman has always been my favorite, I think, because he's, you didn't ask why. I'm not going to go into that. But basically, Batman for DC, I think probably Iron Man for maybe Marvel? Probably Iron Man. I don't know. And those are just because when I was growing up, those were my favorite characters, my two favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, one more super chat question for now.
Sure.
All right, how is your dust vacuum system holding up?
It's still holding up. We ended up taking out the automatic section of it. One of the relays burnt out. And about that time, we got the new the CNC, and so we didn't replace the relay, and we kind of separated out how it was working. And so the automation is not there anymore, but we didn't really need it. Now it's the tools have moved around a little bit to where they're clumped and very easy to kind of manually manage. Also, I think since we did that video initially, I got a much bigger dust collector. So it doesn't have any trouble adding plenty of suction to all of the tools when all of the gates are open. So I think the smart kind of closing and opening made a lot more sense when there was a limit on how much draw the dust collector could draw. But that's not really the case anymore, so I kind of leave them open. Unless I'm doing something that needs a whole lot of, like if I'm running the joiner it really needs a lot of suction to get everything cleared out of that thing, so I'll close all the other gates manually just for that one tool. But as far as like the placement and the manual gates and stuff, works great. Hey, somebody got the course with 10% off. Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
They also have a question with it.
Okay, what's the question?
What project surprised you the most in terms of difficulty or challenge?
Foam stuff always surprises me, especially foam helmets. And I haven't done one of these in a long time, but they constantly, Anthony just put on one of the foam helmets over there. They constantly become harder to, you take a flat surface, right, and you have to heat it and bend it and shape it into a three-dimensional thing that can fit on your head. So you've got to work from your head backwards to that flat shape to know how to cut it and everything. And it's always more difficult than I expected it to be. You don't need to wear that on camera. The Batman helmet that I did several years ago, I did like 4 times, I think, or 3 or 4 times in the video, and it just wasn't right. Like it just didn't 3D right. And so that's always been more difficult. R2-D2, I think I went into it with like and it was fun, but pretty soon along the way in building the interior structure, I was like, well, I'm in over my head. Like, this is crazy. There's so much, and there's so many ways to do it. It's not just a matter of, oh yeah, that's the helmet. Thank you. This is the Batman one I was talking about. I did this several times, and it still turned out pretty good, but it's not perfect.
You should do the rest of the stream wearing it.
This thing is so uncomfortable, and that's one of the problems, is getting something like this that can, hey, there's a cool bean sticker on the inside of it. Good job, 4B. 4B has this history of hiding cool beans all over the place, everywhere, and it's right there. This doesn't fit very well. I can get it over my head, but it's really uncomfortable. And that's just one of those things that people like Bill Duran, Evil Ted Smith, they're really good at making this stuff fit and look correct. So, yeah. Anyway, R2-D2 ended up being a lot more than I was expecting, and there's a million ways to do it. So at every stage, I was like, well, should I pick the wooden structure or the plastic structure? Should I do plastic skins or aluminum skins? Because they all have different requirements and different ways to make them and all that type of stuff. So, yes. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and plug these up. I can't really prove that this is going to work now that I'm thinking about it. I don't have a way to... I could prove that the LEDs will light up, maybe, but I don't have a way to prove that the buttons are going to do what they're supposed to do. You're just going to have to take my word for it, I guess.
You'll see it in the video.
That's true. Yeah, next week. This is for next week, so you'll see it very soon.
Hey, Bob, I have a quick question for you.
What's that?
Where'd you get that cool shirt?
This shirt? This shirt? This shirt is what you're asking about? This one right here with the I Like to Make Stuff logo on it? This is from shop.ILikeToMakeStuff.com, where we have shirts. And
the logo says hat, but...
And hats.
Yeah, we have hats, too.
Yeah, we have merch and stuff if you want to. The whole idea with the merch, let me do this. It's not a sales pitch. I mean, it is, but it's not supposed to be. The whole idea of the shirts that say I like to make stuff is not necessarily for you to like rep us as a channel or whatever. It's always supposed to have been a phrase that you could take and wear to tell other people that you like to make stuff. That's the whole point, right? So when you get that shirt, of course you're supporting us, and that's amazing, and I really do appreciate that. But I also hope that it's a way for you to like have a conversation starter. Because like one time I was at Home Depot, I don't think I told you guys this. No, Menards. I went to Menards. I was asking about a return, and I had on the saw blade shirt that says I like to make stuff. And the guy behind the counter was like, hey man, where'd you get that shirt? And I thought it was weird because I feel like he should have known that, you know, if he knew the name, he would have known it was me. But he just liked the shirt because it said I like to make stuff. And he was like, I like to make stuff. I would like to tell people as well. Where can I get that shirt? And so I got to tell him. But it was really cool because it spoke to the person as a statement rather than like a brand identifier or whatever. So that's where I got the shirt. Man, I can really over-explain, can't I? All right, do we have some more questions?
Yeah, we have some more questions. For toilet paper, are you an over person
Yes.
or an under person?
Over.
Over.
Only Australians do the under, right? Is that the way it works?
I don't know.
People in the southern hemisphere use the
I
under?
don't know, why is it such a big deal?
I'm just kidding.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. The reason it's a big deal
I need to know why.
is because, okay, so if it's under, like I said, I can over-explain anything. There's actually no difference. But I always feel like in my house, because of my cats, if it's under, they somehow can get a hold of it and pull it easier. If it's over, I think the weight of the toilet paper stops it from spinning freely so much or something. I don't know. It just does better over.
Yeah. Mike wants to know where we're going for lunch today.
Ooh, where are we going for lunch today?
I don't know, but Mike's not invited.
Oh!
That's her husband, in case you're wondering.
Yeah.
Another question. Do you miss the smaller shop or builds? How has the expansion changed your daily process? That's a good question.
That is a very good question.
That's from Eric on Instagram.
Thanks, Eric. I do not miss the smaller shop. Not even for a moment. I can't imagine what would make me miss that shop. So no. The smaller builds, not really. I mean, I honestly, that's always kind of a weird thing. For you as a viewer, hear this. Like, I enjoy making small things and big things, but I've made a lot of small pieces of furniture or like small things, hat holders that don't hold hats. I've made a lot of things that serve purposes, and like there's other things that are bigger that I want to make that I wasn't able to make in the small shop. I just didn't have room for them. And so the expansion into a bigger shop and then having like an office has created more opportunities for us to make things. I honestly love to make stuff. The name is not by accident. It's not that I love to make furniture. I like to make tables. I like to make stuff, big and small, weird and useful and not useful, and all of it. So if anything, I guess, you know, the change over the past few years, it's been 5 years I've been in this shop, has just given me more opportunity. And it's amazing, and I'm incredibly blessed to have the space and the things and the people to work with. And so it's all been good for me. I mean, it comes with challenges as well, but it's been good. So I hope that was a reasonable answer. I don't know.
We're an hour in, FYI.
An hour in? Are people still watching?
Yes.
Well, all right, let's keep going then.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I am going to have to eat lunch at some point, but, you know, I got coffee, so. All right, so I do have all of these plugged up. So this is what it's going to look like, basically to have 6 buttons. Now, I don't have the button for the wire for the, all right, this is what the wire looks like for the joystick. So it's not, you know, 4 more buttons, it's just 1 ribbon cable. And so it connects down here to the end, and then goes to the joystick right there. Not a big deal. The thing that's going to get messy is the daisy chain. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on just to show you how congested this whole area gets and how confusing it can be. Like once you've got all of this stuff plugged in, you're also working upside down and, you know, right now. So knowing which button is supposed to be which, it's good to label things on the back side of the control board so that you can look at it and plug the right things in. Because once you get this thing mounted in your arcade, especially if it's hard mounted, it's just a lot more difficult to make changes down here, even though they are plug and play. So just something to be aware of. Labeling on the underside where you're never going to see it will make it easier. Yeah, and so I'm going to hook these up, and I guess this part will be done to show off. I could put all the buttons in, but that seems kind of silly because I'm just going to have to take them all out. So I'm not going to do that.
I do have an emulator loaded up on my laptop. We could demonstrate. It wouldn't be RetroPi, but
Oh.
at least demonstrate how they control.
We wouldn't have a joystick, but we could try that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do some more questions, I guess, while I get this daisy chain hooked up. Were there any, did anybody say anything about any of the projects? Is there anything we should go get to show off?
have
not?
not read anything yet about
Okay.
seeing any projects previously, but I
That's
do
cool.
have a good question.
Okay.
If your tools ever came to life, like in Toy Story, who would be Woody and who would be Buzz?
Oh man,
That's an awesome question.
that is an awesome question. That's like a whole cartoon series right there, waiting to happen. Brave little toaster style.
Less creepy though.
I would think that the saw stop, the table saw, is probably Woody. It seems like the most reliable, in charge piece of tooling here, I would think.
Mhm.
And then Buzz, man, which one would be like a cocky tool?
It also has to be something that says Buzz. Like, it's got a buzz.
Oh, that's a good point.
The wiggle saw.
The wiggle saw. David Picciuto calls the jigsaw a wiggle saw, which is excellent. I don't know. Maybe a laser,
Oh,
The
that
Blowforge?
makes sense.
because he does the little, thing. Yeah, probably.
I got another one
'Kay.
from the chat right now.
Cool.
What is an estimated cost to build an arcade cabinet start to finish?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, so the Raspberry Pi, I would have to add this up. I don't have this off the top of my head. But I'll give you the numbers and you can add it up.
All right.
So Raspberry Pi right now is extremely expensive. So if you can wait a little while and get one for $45, that's that. Or maybe you can find a used one or, somebody who has one. But that's $45. Okay, somebody said, Russ in the chat said pizza. Remind me about that in just a second after I finish this question.
Okay.
Because there's a joke there that he made, but I have a better continuation of that joke.
Okay.
So that's 45. The controls, like 4 players of controls here. Josh would maybe have to drop in, and he ordered these, so I'm not sure how much they cost, but I'm sure it wasn't more than $50 or $60. I don't know, Josh, let us know in the comments if you can how much this control set was. Past that, you need a monitor. Depends on the size of monitor you want to get. If you get like a 24-inch LCD, something like that, 21-inch, you're talking $100 maybe, something like that. Past that, it depends on the type of arcade that you want to build. If you're doing a full-size cabinet, you're probably talking 5 or 6 sheets of plywood, which, that's like $8,000 right now, or it's like $500 probably. If you're talking about a bar top, kind of short arcade cabinet, you're probably talking 2 sheets of plywood, a sheet of plywood maybe,
I think
sheet and a
I made
half.
one out of a sheet.
Yeah.
MDF,
MDF, so that's, you're talking maybe $100 there. So probably you could get away with a bar top cabinet under $250.
Yeah. And a note on bar tops, whenever I go to Goodwill, I see monitors for like $5 or $10 almost every time I go.
That's
and
a good
I think
call.
Bar top arcade every time
Yeah.
I see it.
The first time I built a bar top, I used a 19-inch Dell monitor that I got at Goodwill, and I think it was like $20
Yeah.
or something like that. So I hope that helps. What is this? Oh, yeah. Oh. He threw that harder than I thought. This is from our prop video, and this thing looks real, don't you think? I think
Yeah.
it looks real, but it
You
floats.
should have fallen to the ground when I
Yeah,
threw
it floats around the shop all the time. It's really funny because it still gets all of us. Somebody will kick this across the shop, and you have a giant
Stresses me out every time.
or catch. And then this is also the crowbar, which we made, which is, it has metal in it, right? Didn't we put like a
Got
piece
like
of,
a wire armature in it.
yeah, I think we put a piece of metal in there. And it definitely does not look real up close, but at a distance,
It definitely looks like it from here.
it
That's
works,
true
it
for a
works
lot
pretty
of
well.
actual props and movies.
That's a good point. Yeah. So
All right,
those are both
pizza.
from the action.
What about pizza, Bob?
Pizza. Okay, so Russ said in there that he was going to order us pizza and have it delivered to Kentucky. So Wes, our friend Wes from Geeksmithing, is a friend of mine. He, when we used to do the Twitch live stream, it was always at this time. It was during lunch, and I was always hungry, like every single time. I don't know why I didn't eat lunch beforehand. I was always hungry. I'm always hungry. Anyway. So Wes knew my address and ordered a pizza and had it delivered to my house during the live stream. So, and it said like on the instructions, knock on this door, because it was the door, outside door to my shop and everything. And so I'm like doing the live stream and somebody starts knocking on the door and I'm trying to ignore it, you know, like trying to be professional live streamer or whatever. And so eventually I go over and open the door and there's somebody there with pizza. Ordered me pizza and I ate it on the live stream. It was awesome.
Wes is at my house right now. I told him to hop on and do that again today.
That's funny.
I don't think he did.
Pizza sounds
He
good.
doesn't need to do that again. But anyway, Russ, thanks for the thought.
Good old pizza.
Yeah.
Every pizza.
Project Show and Tell Dice Towers. All the dice towers are at the office.
Oh, they're at the office.
A lot of stuff is at the office now.
We'll
but-
do a stream from the office sometime in the future.
Yeah. So the current, maybe that's a good point.
Yeah.
Let us know what you want. If we continue to do live streams, we're not going to do them super often, but the whole idea is that the weeks that we don't have a project video come out, maybe we could do a live stream for this type of thing or show you progress or something else. But the setup that we're using can actually be moved very easily around the shop, taken to the office, taken other places. It's very easy to move. Anthony's been working on this really cool, easy setup for live streaming. So if you have ideas of what else we could do with live streaming, let us know, because, you know, because, I don't know, because there's chat.
Just
Go for it.
Because.
Yeah.
Got a good question here.
Okay.
From the team, who has the most renovation projects left at their house
Me.
that we might see videos for?
Anthony.
Definitely me.
So Anthony moved to town 2 years ago? A year ago? 2 years
It's
ago.
almost been, it'll be 3 years in the fall.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he moved, he bought this house and he moved in and then he just like tore everything out of the house all at once with 2 small children, and he's been building it back. So
They were
instead
very
of
helpful.
instead of doing what, you know, like what I said earlier about like just take a little bit at a time and renovate this, he just like gutted the whole place and he's been building
Yeah,
it back.
the
So
first major thing we did was let's rip out 2 20-foot sections of load-bearing wall, and the house stands today. So
yeah.
that was fun.
Excuse me. He definitely has a lot more projects.
But for those wondering, the kitchen,
Excuse me.
we started Backsplash. It's coming along really, really well, and the
Yes.
countertops are still awesome.
Good. Good. Okay, I don't want to drag this out. Let's do maybe 10, 15 more minutes.
All right.
Sure.
Because
Sounds
this
good.
thing, I mean, there's not really much more to show here.
That's just an excuse to do a stream.
Yeah, it really was.
Hang out. Somebody asked, what is the oldest tool you own, and can you show it?
Like, probably Dennis. Power tool? We name some tools around here. It is probably Dennis. So Dennis.
What about the Bridgeport?
Oh, that's true. Bridgeport is older. Yeah, Bridgeport's 40. I don't remember the year. It's late 40s or early 50s, somewhere. That and the South Bend lathe are both pretty old. But this thing.
Where you get this frame.
Well, we have a mobile camera.
Yep.
So if you switch to this one, I'll show it off.
Should I get it closer to you?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
All right, so Dennis has a story. You tell me when. Well,
There you go. You're good.
okay. So this is Dennis. This thing right here. And this is a dentist drill, or, yeah, I mean, it's a drill. So my dad was a dentist, and my grandfather was a dentist, and this was one of my grandfather's old tools that was here when we bought the house, and it just never gotten rid of. It's pretty cool. It doesn't have any power going to it anymore, but it used to have, this thing would spin, and it had a belt that ran up here to another pulley, which I know this is difficult to see, up here, and then that would go down to the tool that they held, so a rotary tool. And so it was all driven from that, and then there's a motor down there and all that type of stuff. And so we've used it, we put a little camera mount on the end.
This is hard to do. There you go. You're in.
And so we put a camera mount so we could mount lights and stuff on the end of it. We actually used to have a camera on here when we did live streams on Twitch. We had a mobile camera so I could reach it and, you know, move it around and pull it close to whatever I was working on. So that's
Right.
them. That's behind the scenes. So yeah, that's probably, other than the Bridgeport and the lathe, that's probably the oldest one.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? There's got to be some more.
Someone asked about the Nutcracker, or the bowl and napkin rings and trivets.
The napkin rings and trivets, I don't know where those are. Probably up in my kitchen. The nutcracker is right over there behind Anthony.
Oh gosh, why is it so heavy?
It is very heavy. It's like, yeah, it's heavy. You can put it right here in front.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Oh no!
I forgot to. He's got a
That's
clamp
it.
sticking
That's
out
good.
the back. He's a little dusty.
Yeah. So there's the nutcracker.
That was a fun cut.
I don't have anything to crack with it, and it seems to be jammed.
Oh, Jeremy.
It's probably all of the coconut water that like glued it together or something, but yeah. That's it.
See you next time.
Yeah. He's pretty dusty, so this has been floating around the shop because I don't know what else to do with it, and it's getting covered with dust.
Oh my goodness, I just zoomed in on the way too far.
All right. Anything else? Any other good ones? There's a lot of questions. I know we had a lot going
We have
into
a
it.
lot of questions, yeah.
Hey, it's Punished Props.
Oh, hey.
Bill, I was talking about you earlier.
Speaking of
see
props, what is a prop from a film or TV series you'd want to make but haven't yet?
Oh man, there's a lot. Okay, so here's one that I've wanted to make for a long time, and I don't think I ever will. I just saw the zoom in on the.
Yeah.
Wow, that was crazy looking. Sorry about that.
Guys.
God, I'm a professional too. There was there was a Marvel TV show called Cloak and Dagger a couple of years ago. It wasn't great. It was very like teenage drama with some superhero stuff built in. But I really liked the Cloak and Dagger comic book when I was growing up. So I watched part of it. Hey, it's Nick. Hey, Nick. What's up? So Dagger, the character, she shoots these she has these little it's like a crystal-shaped dagger thing, and they glow. And the entire thing just glows. There's no point of light or anything. But she like throws them like knives or whatever. And I always thought it would be really cool to make that with no seams, but it would glow from every side. So it would be like a glowing crystal piece of ice looking thing, but maybe with like inductive charging. And I don't know how you would do it well. I've never really thought that far into it, but ever since I saw an episode of that show, I'm like, that thing would be really cool to figure out. It's not like a specific prop where if somebody else saw it, they would recognize it or anything, but that's one. I think there's still probably Star Wars props that I would like to make. Lots of guns and lightsabers and stuff, but you can only do that so many times before people get bored, so...
And we'll see them actually punish props out at Silicon in a couple weeks, aren't we?
Yes. If anybody watching is planning on going to Silicon, this is Adam Savage's con in San Jose, California, I'm going to be there. The whole team's going to be there. Not the whole team. Most of the team's going to be there. Punish Props, Bill's going to be there. A bunch of people are going to be there. It's going to be super cool. We're really excited about that. And we're taking a longer trip, so we're going to do a bunch of different stuff in California while we're out there. But we're going to end up in San Jose and go to the con. We'll be there all weekend. I'm doing probably a talk and some different things on stage, and we'll be around. So if you're around, come say hi. That would be awesome.
I have a really good one.
Okay.
I like this one.
Really good one.
If Lucasfilm lets you run rampant in their archives, what is one thing that
steal?
you would want? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. One thing?
Just one.
One thing. This would take me months to decide what that one thing would be.
We've already been going for an hour.
So what's another month? Man, I don't know. I think it would have to be a miniature. There's so many things that in Star Wars that look so big, and then when you see the behind-the-scenes stuff, you realize that it's a Millennium Falcon that's this big, and it's just shot in an amazing way over some crazy contraption that they built. So I think probably like one of the original ships miniatures that they used, one of the most detailed ones or something. I don't know, golly, that or like one of the New Hope R2-D2s. I mean, that'd be amazing. they were in pretty rough shape. Like they're not super clean. I can tell that from the pictures, but that'd be a cool thing to have. All right. Anything else?
I think we're good.
Cool. Well, thank you to everybody for hanging out with us today. Let us know if this is something you think we should do more of, or if you have other ideas, things we could do on the live stream. It doesn't have to be me talking at you the entire time at all, but I really certainly appreciate the questions. Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. And be sure to go follow us on Instagram. You can see what's coming up. And then next week, same time, we will have a new project video for you, and it's going to be super cool. So I think that's it. Big thanks to them for running the show and answering or giving me questions and all that stuff. And thanks to you for being here. We'll see you next time.